Hi, my name is Tom Mavro and welcome to the Cut It TV training channel. The channel has been set up to provide easy to follow training tutorials in today's key media production software. Cut It itself is a UK based training company with over 15 years experience providing hands-on training in media production. If you would like any further information about our training services, please visit our website at www.cut-it.tv or check us out on social media. I hope you enjoy the following tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to look at project setup and basic media management. First of all, it's always a good idea to have an external drive available when you're editing video. The problem with using the internal drive on your system, whether it's a Mac or a PC, is that because video files by their very nature are large files, whatever drive you're using very soon becomes full to capacity. If this is the same drive that your system is running off, then the entire system starts to slow down and underperform. So it's a very good idea to invest in a second drive, an external drive ideally, for your media content. The drive itself should be a suitable drive for media work. These drives will come in an enclosure that incorporates venting or a fan to keep the drive cooler. Once you've obviously shot your footage and before you set up your project in Adobe Premiere, I would always recommend copying the footage off the camera or off the SD card in the camera onto your media drive. I've already done this part of the process, and what I've done is I've created a temporary folder on my media drive called footage, and I've copied some footage into that folder. What I've also done is on my media drive I've created a folder for my actual project itself and given that folder a suitable name, so I've called this one training. Before I go into Premiere, what I'm going to do is take my actual footage and put it into the folder that I've created for the project. The idea here is if we keep everything self-contained within a single folder, we can back that folder up onto another drive. It also means that I can take the external drive and plug it into any system running the same version of Adobe Premiere, and all of the media files that the project needs to run will be available, and the project itself will find the media as opposed to losing the connection to the media, because the media and the project file end up in two separate locations. The way that a project works within Adobe Premiere is when you create a project file and you import your media into that project, the media doesn't get embedded within the project file. The project file links to wherever the media is. So you have to be organized about where your media goes and where your project goes. So the next part of this process is going to be to launch Premiere and create a new project and save that project into the training folder that I've created on my media drive. We're going to set up this project on the latest version of Adobe Premiere, which is CC 2015. The process though is effectively the same if you're running previous versions of Adobe Premiere. So when Adobe Premiere launches, it opens up a welcome screen which gives you a few options. So first of all, we have the option of creating a new project. We can open any recent projects that have been worked on. They'll be listed in a little list here. Or we can go to open and navigate to wherever a previous project file is and launch that. I'm going to click on the new project option, and this is then going to open up a new project window. Now the two key things here on a basic level are to name your project. So I'm just going to call my project training, and I'm going to save the project into the folder that I've created for it on my media drive. So I'm going to click browse and I'm going to navigate to my media drive, to the training folder, and click choose. Now also I mentioned that I want to make sure that my footage is in the same folder, so I'm going to go into a finder window here. I'm going to take the footage folder and I'm also going to move that into the training folder. Okay, going back to the new project window in Premiere, I just want to mention two other things. First of all, video rendering and playback. I'm going to talk about this in more detail on another tutorial, but if you have an option here, you see mine is grayed out, but if you have an option to do so, click on the drop down menu here and switch to the GPU playback option. This means that all previewing of clips with effects and graphics and so on added to them will be done through your graphics card as opposed to playing through RAM. This gives you better performance and will preview clips with effects on, for example, at full frame rate and full resolution. I also wanted to click on the scratch disk tab and just mention one element of this window. The Scratch Disk tab dictates where multiple files that get generated by Premiere itself get put. The one thing I wanted to mention was Project Autosave. It's advantageous to have everything else that Premiere Pro generates going into the same folder as the project. So notice the default options for all of these is same as project, and that means that any files that get generated by Premiere by default get put in the same folder as the project has been saved into, which is fantastic because it keeps everything self-contained with the media and with the project itself. However, there is one element of this that if I was working on a standalone system with an attached drive, I would switch, and it's this option here, Project Autosave. Every 15 minutes, although this time period can be changed in preferences for Premiere, by default Adobe Premiere will save an autosave version of the project you're working on. What this does is it creates a copy of your project file into a new location. Now what I do with my autosaves is I switch this to go to a different drive than the project itself is getting saved onto. So if I'm using an external drive, I usually just save it to the desktop. I'm going to do this now by clicking Browse, navigate to my desktop, and click Choose. A little bit later a folder will appear on my desktop, and inside there there'll be a subfolder for each project I work on, and inside there will be the autosave project files. If my external drive for any reason gets corrupted or damaged and I lose the information on it, I will have always made already a backup of my media onto a separate drive. I can go to my backup of my media and I could relink the project file to all of the backup media files and carry on working. But the problem is I will have lost my project file because that was also on the drive, meaning I've lost all my work. If I've got a copy going automatically onto a different drive, all I then need to do is launch the most recent autosave version of the project and then reconnect that to the copied media. Leaving the autosave on the media drive obviously would mean if the media drive did have a problem, I would lose all my autosaves as well. So it sort of defeats the object of having the autosave option in the first place. So the nice thing about the project autosave is once that's set, that stays set. So any future projects now will automatically default to autosaving to a folder on my desktop. So I'm ready to click OK on this window now.